I was told that my next assignment would be to come to a motor show, but not just any motor show, the Fleet Motor Show. Great, I thought. Full of company repmobiles, Mondeos, Vectras, boring old cars that fly past you on the motorway at 100 miles an hour. But then they said that it would be at Silverstone, the home of British motor racing. And that's where we've come today, to the Fleet Motor Show, which gives us not only a chance to take a look at what's on offer from the manufacturers, but also a chance to drive the cars on this world-famous circuit. What do you think potential fleet buyers look for when they're choosing cars these days?
I think various things drive the fleet manager to add or otherwise a vehicle to their list, because a few years ago when there used to be one make policies, now many companies have got 5 or 6 vehicle makes on their list to choose from. And I think initial cost, running cost, whole life cost is important as to when that vehicle is finally disposed of, what does it cost the company. Pressure from drivers, image, which makes a statement about that company. All these things sort of play a part. And again, if the company is leasing the vehicles rather than buying the vehicles, sometimes the cost per month is the overriding factor. So there's many reasons really.
How do you sort of equate a normal motor show, say at the NEC or at the Earl's Court, to the Fleet Motor Show?
Well, the difference really is that for this show, everybody that comes to the show is pre-registered in advance. So we know quite a lot about that person before they get here. We know who they are, what their job is, how many cars they've got, so that the exhibitors here, by the barcodes on their badges, have got an idea who they're talking to. Whereas in a motor show, it's a consumer show, anybody and everybody can go to the motor show. And of course, that means that this is just somewhat quieter and less crush and hustle and bustle. And the manufacturers here tend to like that approach.
But a lot of business goes on all the same.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can you put a figure on what the fleet business is worth in terms of money?
Yeah, it's calculated at about 14 to 15 billion pounds a year. Is what the fleet business is worth.
It's a major employer as well.
Absolutely, yeah, it is.
And what is it as well about the British market for fleet cars and company cars that's so unique?
Well, I guess it all started a few years ago when we had a pay freeze, and it was used to encourage people to move from one company to another when they couldn't give them more money. So there was a time in the mid-80s when people were advertising jobs with a Porsche and so on and so forth. So the car was used very much as an incentive, and the thing has sort of really taken off from there.
It's a very interesting showing that it gives people the chance to come along and actually test drive the cars out here on the Silverstone circuit. That's
correct, yeah.
There's a driving school, you can go around the race circuit, there's a 4x4 course and a rally course as well.
That's correct, yeah.
How do you kind of link that in with the fleet buyers? Is there not some...
I think there's the show primarily is a business-to-business event, and what we want to try and do is encourage people to come here and talk business. But of course, most businessmen, most people that are interested in cars as part of their job, will also be interested in driving the car around the Grand Prix circuit. And people like Skoda, for example, which is the first time they've come to the show, they've got one of their cars on the rally circuit. And so from their point of view, it's another way of demonstrating another part of their business. So it all helps them to build their brand awareness and so on.
It's bringing that fun element into it.
That's right, yeah.
Derek Bell, you're here at the Fleet Motor Show with Audi. What's your involvement with them today?
Well, I'm involved with them the whole year, and I do a lot of work with them, a lot with fleet people, but any events that need people to be driven around or just to be an ambassador with them. But particularly today, I mean, we've got the two elements here. We have the elements where the people can actually drive the cars out on the circuit, themselves with us as passengers, which is a terrifying thing. And then we have the chance for them to drive on the road. The road is very limiting because obviously there's a lot of traffic out there and the speed limits. Whereas here on the track, we can get in the car with them. They can drive around, obviously fairly unlimited speed, restricted by the corners at the end of the straights, thank goodness, and get the feel of a car. And I think it's a great opportunity for them also to drive around a Grand Prix circuit. And they go home saying, I actually drove an ex-racing driver around a Grand Prix circuit in an Audi. And I think that does a lot for the product.
Do you think it's very helpful to the drivers who get the chance to do this?
Very much. Oh yeah, I mean the people, because I don't just sit there like a lemon. I sort of give them tips on maybe you could help you drive a little bit better if you did this or did that. So they get a few tips from us as well. And I think they go home at the end of it enjoying the car much, much more than they would if they just simply took it out on their own. Because a lot of people, they get on a track and they actually overdrive. They drive too fast into corners. And then they go, oh, I didn't like that. I didn't think much of that car. It was all the tires are squealing and I was all sort of hanging it out. Whereas, if you get in there and say, no, treat it like this, do that, do the other. And they go, oh, I see what you mean. That was great. So actually we're a great asset to the product and an asset to the client.
Do you think the pointers that you give them driving on a racetrack are relevant to road driving?
Very much so, because it's all a matter of feel. Driving is a matter of feel, and people don't seem to realise that. And you see these guys, they get out there, and you can see them, they've got a white knuckle road, and they're holding on like that, and I say, relax. I had a gentleman yesterday in the car with me, Simon Shaw, who actually is the second row forward for Great Britain in the British Lion team. And he got in, and he's got these big meats of hands, he's like that. I couldn't see the wheel for his hands, and I said, relax, because his hands were like, ooh, holding on. I said, no, relax. Driving is a fingertip control thing, so you can feel the sensitivity. And I think it's very relevant to drive on a track. I mean, I know you're going to say, but we're not meant to be driving that fast, but the chances they can drive a car, get the feel of a car, get some of these sort of frustrations out and perhaps things that they've had in the back of their mind. They can learn about ABS brakes, how much they can brake, learn about the limits of a car without endangering anybody on the road, whereas they buy it from a dealership, take it out, and off they go and have a crash.
Well, I've just been out on the Silverstone circuit in the Nissan Primera 2-litre GT. This is a new model on the Primera range. As I say, it's a 2-litre, 150 brake horsepower car. It goes particularly well on the track. It's really great fun to drive around a race circuit like Silverstone in this car. There's plenty of power there, and you can really corner tremendously well in this car. Very impressive to drive. It has a lot of good features as standard. There's air conditioning, airbags for the driver and passenger, sports seats which are very firm, very supportive with Hearth leather, plus alloy wheels, and a real boy racer image with a great big spoiler on the back. All in all, this new Nissan Primera GT is a very nice car to drive, and I'm sure it'll sell particularly well in the company car market. Now, with the absence of some of the major British manufacturers at this year's Fleet Motor Show, like Ford and Vauxhall, it's given Renault the chance to claim the #1 manufacturer's spot at this year's show. They're here with the all-new Renault Espace. That's our first chance to get a good look at that. Very nice car too. They've also got the Renault Megane Classic, and this, the all-new Scenic, which has really taken the driving world by storm. It's quite a revolutionary design. It's a little bit like an MPV in that you sit up quite high in it, but apparently out on the road it feels more like a car, but it still gives you lots of flexibility. You can change the seats around, and there are other nice little touches inside the car as well. Citroen are brimming over with new ideas at this year's show, which they say will have a major impact on the fleet market. There are two new engines for the ever-popular Xantia, a 3-litre V6, which Citroen say will provide supreme comfort and power, and also a new 2.1 turbo diesel, which again they say will provide petrol-like performance combined with diesel-like economy. Now, alternative fuels are going to be very important for the way that we drive and purchase our cars in the future. Some manufacturers are going down the gas route and trying out gas cars. Other manufacturers are choosing the electric route. And one of those is Toyota. With me is Mark Lodge from Toyota GB. Mark, Toyota have chosen to go down the electric route with the RAV4. Tell us why they made that choice.
Okay. The electric RAV4 is only one of a number of alternative energy solutions that Toyota Motor Corporation in Japan are actually looking at. There are a number of other systems that are currently being studied. There's gas propulsion, there are hydrogen fuel cells, a number of other issues that are being addressed at the moment.
What sort of range can a car like the RAV4 get off a charge?
Currently we're looking at 124 miles from a fully charged battery to a discharged condition.
And presumably if you put the foot down a little bit harder, that will reduce the battery?
Yes, I mean, not unlike a normal motor car, if you will. The harder you drive, the more fuel you're going to use, yeah.
And what about any future plans from Toyota for environmental cars?
I'm sure this research will continue at a pace. We're all very keen to look after, obviously, the environment, and Toyota are extremely committed in developing further systems, and I'm sure you'll see a lot more happening, particularly with electric vehicles, but there's all sorts of other things in the pipeline, hybrid vehicles, and as I said earlier, the other energy sources that we're currently developing.
Well, I think this morning we were a bit sceptical about coming to the Fleet Motor Show. We didn't quite know what to expect, but it's certainly been a very interesting day. We've had a chance to see lots of new cars and, most importantly, a chance to drive those cars out on the circuit. We've been chauffeured about all day in fine limousines. We've had lovely food supplied to us, and all that remains now is to try and find a lift home. I hope they haven't gone without me.